Yo, what is going on, guys? This is my Stamina Templar build for the Fate DLC. Let's start off with our attributes here. We're putting 50 points into Stamina and 14 points into Magic here. That gets us 17k max Magic, 30k health, and 23k max Stamina. I like the 14 points into Magicka since we do drain quite a bit from our Magicka pool, sometimes relatively quickly. And the 14 points help buffer that, but you don't need them. If you feel more confident than I do, you can just put everything to max 10 for maximum damage, but I do like having the extra Magicka. For our race, we are an Imperial. I like to run Imperial for the extra max health and max stamina it gives, along with the 6% cost reduction here. For other races that would work well is actually High Elf for Breton, and even Nord for more tankiness. Breton more Magicka sustain, and High Elf for some Magicka sustain and damage, with a bit of tankiness since it does get 5% damage reduction when you channel Biting Jabs and Radiant Oppression. For our Mundus Stone here, we are running the Apprentice for more spell damage, and the reason why you run that is because the Templar here gets a passive where every time you activate a Dawn's Wrath ability, you increase your spell damage by 10%, which is really massive, so you just want to stack as much spell damage as you can. And then Smoke Bear Haunches are food. You can run Jewels of Mistral, the purple version of this food. It's totally up to you. It's definitely about the exact same as Smoke Bear Haunch, it's a lot cheaper. And then we're going to be running Vampire Stage 3. Vampire Stage 3 is a must for every PvP build, and I think you should run it since when you're below 50% HP, you do get an insane amount of damage reduction as it scales up the lower health you get. Our stats fully buffed up is 6,500 weapon damage here, 2k stamina recovery, 2k matter recovery, 26% spell critical, 1,700 crit resist, 27k physical and spell resistance on our backfire goes up to 28.5k. Alright, on to our sets here. I chose to run an Engine Guardian because I personally love this set. I think it's the best monster set in the game. But if you want to run a different set, you can run a Balux for more damage. Totally up to you. You still have enough sustain without Engine Guardian, by the way. I just like Engine Guardian. It gives me more options. When I get the Magicka proc, I can spend more Magicka abilities. With the Stam, I can roll more. Or if I get the health proc, I can be more aggressive. That's why I like to run Engine Guardian, but Balog can definitely work here as well. And then One Piece Trainee for the extra max health. And then for our front bar set, we are running Deadly. Increases our damage of your damage over time effects or channel abilities by 15%. This is massive since pretty much all our damage except one ability is a damage over time effect. So all our damage is increased by 15%, which is massive. And the 2 and 4 piece is really good since it gives us most damage and extra crit, which is always nice to have. And our back bar set will be Wretched of Vitality. I love this set personally since when you proc a major or minor buff, it gives you 400 Magicka and stamina recovery for 15 seconds, which is an insane amount of extra sustain. This is where all the sustain comes from on this build. When you have this up, you have infinite sustain, and I really like this set. And then our mythic will be Sea Serpent Coil. I chose to run this because it gives us Major Berserk and Major Curve, which increases our damage up by 10% and our weapon and spell damage by 430. Which is an insane amount of damage for basically free. All you do is get snared by a bit, but if you don't want to get snared, all you can do is just leave your health never fully heal and you won't get the snaring effect. But if you don't want to run this, you can run Markin's Ring, which gives you 200 weapon and spell damage and 2,000 armor, which makes you a bit tankier and a little bit of damage. I definitely think Sea Serpent Coil is just better, so I personally like to run it over it. For our glyphs here, we're running all infused spell damage glyphs here to get the mag recovery. You can choose to get the sand recovery, but I personally like the extra mag recovery this gives me. So all you have to do is just put on a spell damage glyph in the new patch and you get some extra mag recovery, which is very nice. For our armor pieces here, we're running 3 medium. They're all in pen, and then on our gloves, waist, and boots here, these are all in pen, and then 4 heavy on our legs, shoulders, helmet, and chest. These are all reinforced. Get the maximum amount of armor, which gives us some nice extra damage reduction. All prismatic glyphs too, by the way, so we get the most max stats possible. For our weapons here, running double maces with charge to get the extra shock up, the extra uptime on shock, and then Nerdhone to get the extra damage with the disease. I personally like disease and shock because I think they give the best debuffs from glyphs. One gives you minor, one reduces their healing by about 5%. And the other increases the damage they take by 5%, that is the shock glyph. And then for our shield, we're running max down with Sturdy. Sturdy reduces the cost of block, nothing else to be said there. And then weapon damage increases your weapon and spell damage for 174 for 5 seconds, which is very nice to have. And then powered, I personally love powered over defending, but you can run defending here if you prefer defending over powered. It's totally up to you. It all comes down to personal preference. For our skills here, we're running biting jabs. This is how we get our major brutality or sorcery for 10 seconds. So you just have to remember on this build, if you're on your back bar for a while and you haven't used jabs, just switch to your front bar and quickly hit jabs and then switch back. So you get the so you keep your major brutality and sorcery buff up the whole time, otherwise it will drop, and that is a bunch of healing missing out on. And then I chose to run Purifying Light instead of the other morph because we get our major and minor fracture from pierced armor. That's why I really like to run Purifying Light. Plus it's an extra heal over time, which is very nice to have. Now I chose to run Unstable Core here because this actually does a bunch of damage. When you first use it on someone, it reduces their movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds and deals 1600 magica damage. Their second attack immobilizes them for 3 seconds and deals 3200. And then the third attack stuns them for 3 seconds, dealing 6500 magic damage. This effect can occur every second. To make this clear, they have to attack you to proc this, by the way, just to make that clear. But fully buffed up, the ending tick actually goes up to 9500 magic damage. The middle one's like 4500 or 5k. And the other one is like 2500 or 3000, about there. So this actually hits very, very hard on the last tick, which can lead to some nasty burst combos. And then Radiant Glory, this is your flex spot for this build. I chose to run this kind of like the extra healing, but you can definitely choose the other more for the extra damage. Other abilities you could run here is if you want to run Race Against Time here. I'm not running Race Against Time or any major expedition on this build, so if you wanted to get it, I would switch out Radiant Glory. You don't need it necessarily since you do have a lot of damage with Unstable Core, Biting Jabs, and Reflective Light already, but it's just still nice to have, so it just depends on your playstyle. Or you can also run the Vampire Elusive Mist here, which I think is really good. So if you want to run that, that's definitely another good option. This is, I think, very strong. Gives you major extinction and major evasion. So if you want to try this out, I definitely give this a shot. It's pretty good and a pretty good movement ability, so I would definitely give that a shot. And then Reflective Light here, I chose to run this one because it snares by 40% for 5 seconds and it can be hit on multiple people. But the other morph does last 10 seconds longer. So if you want to apply this ability less, then you can run that one instead, but then you don't get the snare. So once again, that's more personal preference. And I chose to run Crescent Sweep here since I like it. It's a very good ult. It's very spammable, and we have a lot of dots. We have Unstable Core, Reflective Light, and then jab spamming. Having an ult up all the time is very nice. And we actually get the stun from Unstable Core, so we don't need the stun from Dawnbreaker. But if you do want to run Dawnbreaker, that is another completely good option. I would either run Dawnbreaker or Crescent Sweep here. Totally, once again, personal preference. But I like Crescent Sweep because it gives us a lot of consistent pressure, since it does 60% more damage when hitting people in front of us. So that is a nice bit of chunk of extra damage. On our back bar here, we're running Honor of the Dead. Nothing else to be said. Pierce Armor, that's how we proc our Wretched Vitality, so make sure this has 100% uptime. Resolving Vigor, another heal, gives us minor resolve. Extended Ritual, very strong, gets rid of 5 negative effects on us. Very, very good. And that's also when actually the Magicka morph for this. That's because I don't need the stamina. If I ever do need stamina, I can just medium weave or heavy attack, but I can't do that for my Magicka. So I really like the channel focus here. But you can run the stamina morph. I don't advise it. Definitely recommend the Magicka morph here. But you can run the stamina morph if you're feeling frisky, but definitely recommend the Magicka morph. And then Temporal Guard here, you get minor protection. I like it. Other ultimates that you can run here is the Sword and Shield ult, Spell Wall. Or you can also run Rite of Passage here as well. I can't remember which morph you take, but you can run this instead. I like this because the minor protection is always nice to have on the back part. Onto our CP. Our CP, we're running Ironclad, reduces your damage taken by 6%. Biting Aura increases the damage done with your area of effect abilities, which is that applies to our jabs and our Crescent Sweep. Keep that in mind. Doesn't apply to these, so this, you could switch this one if you want to maybe the healing one here, but I like it. Increases our 2 hard hitting abilities, so I like to keep it. Direct damage, all your damage abilities, and then damage over time, all your damage abilities once again. So this is very, very good. This applies to everything except Purifying Light actually. So this is a very good CP. And then onto our red CP here. Being stunned or fear causes you to gain major protection for 3 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 10%. This is nice as it alleviates some of the pressure after you get stunned, and that's where you're going to be taking most of your burst damage, is when you get stunned. So this is very nice to have as well. Pain Refugees, I still like to run this even on a Templar since there will still be negative effects on you. But if you don't want to run this, you can run something like Fortify for the extra armor instead, but I still like to run Pain Refuge personally. Sustain by Suffering, once again, I still think there's going to be still negative effects on you, but the other one you can run is this one instead. It's not as good, and I still think there will always be a negative effect to you, especially in PvP, so I still think this is worth running. And then Survival Instinct, when the stat effects on your core combat skills cost 25% less. This is just too good to ever drop. It is just such a good, insane sustained CP passive that you can never drop it. And get all your passives you see fit. And then for Green Tree, War Mount, Gifted Rider, Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, and Breakfall to reduce the damage you take when you fall. Rationer, Liquid Efficiency just to save on some money. Alright, how do you play the build? You just want to buff up on your back part here, make sure everything's running. Then I like to just hit him with the Pierce. Start off with the Reflective Light here to get the ticks proccing into the Purifying Unstable, and then you just auto attack Gas Spam. And you do an insane amount of burst damage. You just hit Crescent Sweeps here over and over. As you can see, this does like 16k and then like 7,000 damage every 2 seconds, which is very, very high and very nice to have. You have a lot of damage and it's a lot of good damage over time, so you have very good sustained pressure. And you do actually have a lot of healing since you do heal from Purifying Light when you being aggressive. Vigor, Extended Ritual, you can also heal from Stunning and Channel Focus, and Honor of the Dead, of course. So you have a lot of ways to heal as well. That's why I don't think you need Living Dark. And Unstable Core is a very nice damaging option. This is also stuns them, so just watch out for their ticks. So you can tell once you use this ability enough when the third tick's about to hit or you've hit the second tick. And then you should just be waiting for the stun, and then once the stun activates, you go into the Crescent Sweep and into more Jazz Spam. And then they get low, you hit them with the Radiant Glory and they just evaporate. This skill hits so hard. It's insane actually how hard it hits. I'll show you that ability fully buffed up. As you can see here, it hits for 17,000 over 1.8 seconds and deals up to 500% more. So this is pretty much dealing 100,000 damage over 1.8 seconds, which is insane. So it's basically if they're under like 30% health and you use this on them, they just die since you can't roll dodge it. You have to block it immediately, and usually by then it's too late. So it's very strong execute. That's why I like to run it. If you guys did find this helpful, it would mean a lot to me. Hit that like button and subscribe. And if you guys do have any questions regarding the build, I'd be happy to answer any questions down in the comments below. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed.